Now we come to Canada, the true north, strong and free. And I want you to know that the very first Christmas stamp ever printed was a Canadian stamp. And there you see there. Now, picture postage is a discussion. Picture postage was introduced in Canada in April 2000. And as I explained to you previously, the post office gives you these matrices. So you see the two different possibilities. You could use them either in a format that was horizontal or vertical, and you sent them in a JPEG image, and they would print up your stamps, provided that they passed scrutiny, and there were some troubles with that as well. So there is a few of the ones that I made. So they're just strictly JPEG images. If you know a little bit about photography and resolution, they come out really, really nice. They were about, when you bought them like this, they were about, I'd say 1.5 times what a normal stamp would cost. Now, they're very popular. Hundreds of thousands of these things were produced. There's no catalog status for any of these things. There was a woman in Florida who made every attempt to collect them. She passed away last year, a lovely, lovely lady, Darlene Burt. But picture postage was unilaterally canceled by Canada Post in September 2022. So there are no longer any picture postage stamps. But Canada Post itself adopted that format. So in other words, what they did is they adopted the picture postage format because they wanted to test the waters on multicultural issues. So they released stamps for Eid and for Diwali and for Hanukkah. Because these stamps were issued by Canada Post in the picture postage format, they are listed in the Unitrade stamp catalog. So they are official, but they didn't have anywhere near the circulation of the others. Here's a letter to Rabbi Bolka, who I will talk to you about in a minute. And Rabbi Bolka had a little bit to do with the design of these first ones. And they're sending him a letter saying that he'll really enjoy seeing them, and they're out, and they sold out. The first one sold out. And the official date of issue is October 16th, 2011. There were no first day covers, and there are no die cut singles. So in other words, the only way to get stamps that look like the ones that you're seeing on the screen is to soak them off envelopes. Otherwise, you would have to cut them out. They were issued in stamps of 21 or 40. So they look like this. And they put them out over a series of four or 5 years. But they only put them out to post offices that wanted them. So in other words, you wouldn't necessarily be able to go to Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories and buy Hanukkah stamps, or for that matter to Rouen, Noranda in Quebec and buy Hanukkah stamps. They would have to order them. But in the Jewish areas and places that they thought they could move them, they sold them, and you could buy them through the Philatelic services, along with these postcards. So this was a 1 or 2 year experiment. So the motif on the right side was a common one. So I did the artwork for the thing on the left for my friend Gary Goodman in England. Here's one with my mom and 2 of my boys. And you can see it says Happy Hanukkah at the bottom. That was common. So you would strip your image into those things, and the backs of these things would look like this. There was a pre-printed stamp, the addressing, everything, the messaging, you would do all, and it would be generated and sent from Canada Post. That didn't last very long, but I had a few of these that I wanted to show you. The stamps themselves, all Canadian postage stamps for Hanukkah, all Canadian postage stamps today are in self-adhesive format, with the very few exceptions of some souvenir sheets and things. Almost everything is self-adhesive. So here are Canada's first Hanukkah stamps, and this is quite a story. They were designed by Entro Communications in Toronto. You look at it at the beginning, it looks okay. Like you're really happy to see this get off the floor. But one of the things that artists do often is that they take a piece of an image, and when they have to make a cover, they take the piece of it, they blow it up, and they use that as a design element. So what the people at Entro did is they did something like this. So this is the front cover of the Canada booklet issued November the 14th. And you can obviously see what the problem is. It didn't take long. This has had to be the fastest recall that I've ever seen for postage stamps. They were recalled the day of issue. And I was lucky. There are a couple of post offices around here that I ran out right away. My wife thinks I'm crazy with this stuff, but I ran out right away. And I went to the post office where we were friendly with the postmaster. And she said, yes, I didn't know anything about this. And she had to send them back, but she sold me a few of them. And I made sure that she postmarked one of them on November 14th. And you see it there. So they were quickly reissued a week later, but the date of issue remains the same. But you see that the front cover is different. And in the inside, the stamps are exactly the same. But on the original booklets, they're the Magen David in selvage, the Star of David. On the right and the reprinted ones, they're only circles. This is what the first day cover is. Again, for my American friends, in Canada, the Canada Post is involved with first day covers, where the United States Post Office really isn't. So we have these things called official first day covers. They can be purchased from Canada Post. The postmarks are printed on them rather than hand canceled. And there's a difference. You see that here. So if you're really into the first day cover hobby and you want all aspects of it covered, you might want to get one of each and make your own covers. So the first day cover, before they reprinted them, had the little yellow star on the back. There might have been about 300 of them that got out. And this is the rarest Canadian first day cover that exists. And lest you think you could just get one of the new ones that looks like this and forge it, they changed the UPC codes. So I still, if any of you were really interested in picking this up, I would check out a really reputable stamp dealer before buying it, because I've seen them up for auction as much as $400. So I also wanted to sort of touch base with everybody and talk to you a little bit about the whole die cut thing. See, Canadian stamps, I did this illustration on the left so you could see. Nobody really needs to be explained what a peel and stick thing is, but that's really what you get. Like, if collectors had the option of cutting these things physically out of the booklet like this, and you could do it if you got an X-Acto knife and you were really cool with it, and you do something nice. But it would be nice if you could get it a little bit better. So collectors asked Canada Post, so there's a way that they could provide single stamps with they're not real perforations, they're faux perforated edges, but they look so much nicer in the albums. And since they were putting out these books every year anyway, they decided, okay, so if you take a look at this, there are 12 possible positions that you could collect if you're really into it. So these are the die cuts that exist from the first booklet. And you can see that when they did the die cuts, they're from the first booklet, not the reprints. And to get the die cuts, how do you do that? Well, Canada Post puts out these things 4 times a year. They're called Stamps of Canada. And what they do is they die cut the stamps and they put them in a nice little package. Except that if you go to the stamp guy and you say, geez, I really don't want the Toronto Maple Leafs, with apologies to my friends in Toronto, I just want the Hanukkah stamp die cut. They look at you and they say, hard cheese, buddy. It's $21.75 for the package, and you get it. And you have no option of knowing what's on the back of this either. So you can see that there's 12 different positions. You could buy 3 packages and end up with 3 stamps that are exactly the same. So it's a tough thing to put them all together. Canada Post puts out these things, and most post offices do, and they use the die cut stamps inside them now. And of course, like the Americans, when they put out their first stamp, they have merch, and they put out this lovely framed Hanukkah stamp thing, again with the first booklet, and there's only 350 of them, and you get a certificate of authenticity for this framed Hanukkah thing that you can get. I wanted to just talk to you a tiny bit about Rabbi Bulka because he was a friend of mine, and also because after the fiasco of the first, it wasn't really a fiasco. People were meaning well, and they needed somebody to check the stamps before they go out. So it was a really honest mistake. So the Rabbi Bulka lives in Ottawa. He was the Rabbi Mahziki Haddad here in Ottawa. He was fondly known as Canada's rabbi. If any of Canadians are online and watch the Remembrance Day ceremonies, he was the guy that did them for over a decade. One of the nicest people I've ever met, and he passed away last year, sadly. So I made this picture postage stamp for him that was postmarked on the anniversary of his passing, and so I just wanted you to know, to give you an idea of who he was, because they brought him on board. This is one of my favorite collective pieces. The guys at Canada Post loved Rabbi Boca because he came in and helped them with, on all the design consultations. And so they'd send him a Christmas card every year. And the rabbi would laugh. He'd get these things in. He said, Irv, this is something fantastic for your collection. So this one's very, very special to me. So here are some of the other Canadian Hanukkah stamps. So this is Context Creative in Toronto, 2019. And there's the rabbi holding up the first day cover that he signed for me. And you see that on the back of the first day cover, and a lot of these things you can still order from Canada Post. They're still available. So they give him an endorsement on not only on the first day covers, but on the booklets as well. And these this particular one only sets you back $12.34. So I show you the die cut and cutting it out of a book. And these are the ones that I do have. I don't have all of them. I keep looking on eBay. And once again, to show you the difference between a printed first day cover cancellation and one that's done by hand. And the reason I'm doing this is that every once in a while, the ones that are canceled by hand, the artwork is the same, but the size differs a tiny bit too. And so it's worth looking at. This is the booklet that the Canada Yearbook, and I put this one up because I really like Leonard Cohen, and they threw this one up so that everybody could see Leonard Cohen as well. The 2020 stamp, bringing back the dreidel and the selvage, the same kind of thing, the die cut, the package. And with this one, I got lucky and I got the two menorahs, but that's all I got from these. And here's the first day cover signed by Rabbi Boca, who had, and he actually signed this one in Hebrew for me as well. And here's a first day cover that I made myself. But again, I wanted to show you the difference in the postmarks. Avi Dunkelman is the first Jewish designer to design one of the Hanukkah stamps. He is a teacher at the Ontario College of Art and Design, my old alma mater in Toronto. And he did a fabulous job on this. This is in the post office advertising it. The booklet is beautiful. Avi's a terrific guy. Die cut from the booklet, only $29.28 this time. And a really beautiful first day cover. Really, really nicely done. So there's the official first day cover. Mine's not anywhere near as nice, but take a look. You see that the official first day cover postmark is gray, and the one that's postmarked in Antigonish, Nova Scotia by Philatelic Services is black. So that's where people that are into the topic, that really want to collect everything, that's where you have to be aware. This is a piece of mail that was issued in across Canada for Jewish Family Services that had a Hanukkah motif. And this is this year's Hanukkah stamps. I have this, it says 2020 here. It should be 2022, I apologize. Any of you that don't have a subscription to Details magazine, they're free. So sign up with Canada Post and get it. They had a little bit of a glitch in the Details magazine because you can see that one of the candles doesn't look like it's there. And it really is just the gremlins and offset lithography. The real stamps are fine. There's Andrew Lewis, the designer. And these I scanned myself with my Epson scanner so that I got all the colors right. Rabbi Boca has passed away. They have Rabbi Lisa Grushko in Montreal that is now providing the expertising service and the liaison to Canada Post to make sure things are good. And although this thing is not, these stamps are not available for purchase yet. They may just now be available, the October, December packages. But again, you see, it's $33.78 to get one stamp. And lest you think that you could use all the rest of them for postage, remember, they're all die cut from booklets, so you got to peel the booklets off of them, which is not a lot of fun. But this time, there's only 6 different die cuts. And this time, like I did this one by hand, I created these with my own artwork so that you could see what they would look like. So I really haven't seen them yet, but I wanted to give everybody an idea what they look like. Internationally, I just wanted to reiterate that the coat of arms in Israel has a menorah, but it is not a Hanukkah. So the menorah, and most of the menorah pictures are taken from the beautiful image on the Arch of Titus. And if you haven't been to the Arch of Titus in Rome, I really encourage you to go and see that. And the Hanukkah has 9 candles. So it's a difference between 7 and 9. So a number of countries around the world have issued stamps with either a Hanukkah theme or for Hanukkah. So this from Barbados has a Hanukkah. And those of you that are familiar with Caribbean imagery will smile, because you'll see the Caribbean motifs incorporated into this lovely menorah. In Belgium, a postmark and stamp celebrating the 200th anniversary of the Jewish community in Belgium. And it also exists in porphyry. So the Hanukkah becomes a metaphor for community, a design thing. Same thing with this one from France. The stamp is issued to the synagogue, the Rue de la Victoire synagogue, and the Hanukkah is decorative. Alan Benjamin in England put out this. The image is not great, but it is a smiler. It's England's answer to personalized postage. And to the left of the Wallace and Gromit stamp is a menorah. And I hope to get a better copy of that at some point. In Poland, this is a Hanukkah used as a first day cover cachet for a synagogue stamp, 1984. These lovely, lovely stamps from Czechoslovakia. I have a soft spot for engraving. So there's a Hanukkah as a motif on each of the stamp. You see it, small one, and one of the stamps that is dedicated to the Holocaust is using a Hanukkah as a graphic element as well. In Croatia, they issued a stamp to a synagogue that no longer exists, but I think there are plans to possibly renovate and do something there. And the Hanukkah is in the foreground, but if you look carefully at the cachet is not a Hanukkah. It is just the menorah, whereas the stamp has the Hanukkah. My friend Gary Goodman in the United Kingdom provided me the information about these German booklets that were issued between 1983 and 2020 as part of fundraising campaigns. And one of the fundraising vehicles, one of the fundraising places, organizations to get money was the Central Welfare Office for Jews in Germany. And when they did do that, they gave them permission to use a Hanukkah motif on the outside of this booklet. Now, the booklets, the stamps inside are just regular German stamps, but the booklets themselves are done this way, and other communities got to do this as well. So here are some of the others that I've seen, and I think there are more of them. I was working with Stefan Gollner in Germany to do a personalized postage stamp for Hanukkah in Germany. So I haven't got these back yet, but this is what they look like, and it's based on a detail from the drawing by the postcard by Hermann Juncker that I showed you earlier in the presentation. The Disney holiday set of 6 stamps from Granada. I guess they sell postage stamps, so if you're going to put Thanksgiving and Halloween and all kinds of other things, why not Hanukkah there? There's Hanukkah there. And you see that they've even got Disney's copyright permission to use it. And in Guyana, they issued a series of stamps for holidays of the world. These are quite nice. They're really illustrated nicely. Apparently, the description for the Gandhi stamp is wrong on these things. But there you see Hanukkah, and there I've blown up the Hanukkah stamp so that you can see it. Teddy bears. What have teddy bears got to do with Hanukkah? Well, most of you are familiar with the story of Roosevelt sparing the life of the bear cub, and it ended up that 2 Jewish entrepreneurs invented the teddy bear, and then Guyana made these winter bear things, and of course the one in the middle, the second one is a Hanukkah teddy bear, so holding a menorah and wearing a Magen David and a bow tie. Here's an example of the Hanukkah being used not only as a cachet, but also in the postmark in Hungary. And here are some that were for Hanukkah specifically in Hungary. The artwork isn't terribly great, but there's a conscious effort to celebrate the holiday and market. So 2001, 2004. Here are other ones celebrating the anniversary of the State of Israel using Hanukkot as well. One nicely with the beautiful synagogue stamp from Budapest, the Dohany Synagogue. And this one in 2020 that looks like it had the same artist that the 2004 one did, that is using personalized postage. So although Canada has bid goodbye to personalized postage, it's very, very popular all over Europe. I thought this one was sort of cool because it's Christmas and Hanukkah on the same postmark, and from Naples in 2005. And it has to do with a collaboration with the Children's Hospital in Jerusalem. I don't imagine there are very many Jewish people on the Marshall Islands, but they still felt it necessary to celebrate Hanukkah with these menorah stamps in 2011. Moldova had this, the JDC, the leading global Jewish humanitarian organization, sometimes called the Joint. This is a prepaid envelope, and I blew it up so that you could see it. So the stamp is printed right on the envelope rather than separately. And the Netherlands Antilles actually have a long Jewish tradition. And in Curacao, there's a very, very old synagogue. And this stamp actually was issued in a way that you could get a Tedabesh as well. So I thought I'd illustrate that and show it to you. The Jewish Museum of Culture in Slovakia, where the Chanukia is used as a decorative element, as it is here, for the Chatam Sofer, the rabbi. And here's the stamp. I put this one up because the Chanukia is beautiful, but again, I have a passion for engraving, and this is just an exquisite example of engraving. A friend of mine was just at his gravesite, so I said I would put the picture in for him. So this is where this fellow is buried in Slovakia. The Ukraine, now popular in the news, had a Chanukia incorporated into the motif of this folk art thing that they did, celebrating Jewish life in the Ukraine. We won't get in much further than that, but I reproduced these things so that you can see it and you could appreciate the different designs that were used. These are 216. This is personalized postage from the Ukraine. A lot of places are having these big menorahs, so you see a number of menorah stamps integrated into this, along with the Lubavitch, or the Chabad rabbi, the picture of him. A postmark from Serbia, just a postmark celebrating Hanukkah. These are really cool. This is put out by the United Nations. They put out these celebratory stamps last year. And what they did is, you see that there's a Hanukkah stamp there, and they gave you the option, if you wanted to, you could make your own. So here's my solution to this. So I got a hold of some friends in France and in Germany just to make sure that I spelled Hanukkah right, because there's a million different ways of doing it. So this is like the Yiddish word Freilach and Fröhlich in German, they're coming from the same thing. So you can see that I just did this design to put it together. And there's the New York one. They're all practically the same. They're just coming from different places. And I was able to just integrate these. And you just order them like this. I wanted to, I'm coming down the stretch on this. I wanted to at least leave you with a few smiles. Interesting and unusual philatelic options for Hanukkah collections. Now, these would not be things you would normally look for. So, American Lung Association stickers. These are actually quite nice. And if I had a chance to get a hold of these, I did. I just saw this and I threw this in just to show you. You see it's postmarked in Santa Claus, and it has the Hanukkah stamps and the beautiful, beautiful postmark and illustration. And I'm sure that the funds for this thing went to a good cause. These Season's Greeting stickers. Now, the Maccabi name lives on. If any of you have been to Israel, and apparently they export this stuff too. There was Maccabi beer, and here's a reference to Maccabi lager really, really early on. I think this is 1932. And there was a stamp there. It has since disappeared. But you do see one of the early Zionist stamps on there. It's a sticker. But this is what the stuff looks like now. So if you haven't had one of these recently, I encourage everybody to imbibe. The Maccabi Games are still being held. This with the Maccabi Games were the answer to Dr. Max Nordau's muscular Judaism. He encouraged Jewish people to take part in sports. And I put these up because there were summer and winter Maccabi Games before the State of Israel. And they were really good about making like wonderful postmarks and really, really interesting illustrations. So I put these up for you so that you could look at them. They're expensive, but they're not that expensive. So if somebody wanted to start a collection just of Maccabi game material, you could do it, or just to include one of these things in your collection. And the first Maccabi game stamp in Israel, this one's here, and this is one of my design heroes, Abram Games, and England actually put out a stamp to Abram Games, one of the best designers of the last century. And they have regional games as well, so you can actually, even today, the fact that these Maccabi games are held in Israel proper, they still have regional games. And in Israel, they put out the stamps to the Maccabi games too. This one has absolutely nothing to do with my philatelic presentation, but my boys and my nephews played on the Canadian national team that won the gold medal at the 2017 Maccabi Games, and I designed this poster for it. Maccabi Tel Aviv is still an important basketball franchise, and they play in European competitions, and they win every once in a while. So this is the first. There's a few covers to this. I wanted to let you know about this one. This is really crazy. There was something called the Knights of the Maccabis. This had nothing to do with Jewish people, but it was one of these fraternal benefit societies that sprung up after the war. And you can see that by the postcard that they had a fair bit of gelt. They had a lot of people subscribing and joining, and they were involved with providing safety nets, insurance, and there were different ones. But I thought that I would show you this. They were inspired by Yehuda HaMaccabi, who ordered his soldiers to save a part of the war spoils for widows and orphans. So the group had a fair number of people. You're talking about 340,000 people by 1915. So the postcards are fascinating to look at. And look at the stationery, like fabulous stuff. Eventually, the fraternal organizations ceased operation, and they sort of amalgamated, and they now have something called Maccabi's Mutual Life. And you see that their little logo is like a little tent thing. So in 1962, they became a life insurance company. But not to be outdone, there were there's the ladies of the Maccabees too that you can collect. And they sort of had a beehive as their logo, and they had hives all over the United States. But what's really important is they were the first fraternal benefit society operated exclusively by women. And they've morphed into something else now that is still going very, very strong, that is very lucrative. Their postcards, great stationery. I came across this and I thought, somebody's called an advertising agencies after the Maccabees. What a great idea. But the guy that owns it is actually called Paul Maccabee. So I thought that was pretty cool. And there are a Maccabi island group in Peru. And what they do there is they for lack of a better, I'll try to keep this clean. They harvest bat and seabird excrement. And apparently it's a really highly effective fertilizer. And if you're into that, you want to get that, there are guano stamps that you can add to your collections as well. There are these poor people harvesting this stuff, and see, it doesn't freak out the birds all too much. They're just happy. Just people picking up after them. And there was a USS Maccabi boat, and you can see that you can get a cover from the USS Maccabi, and it was named after the fish, which has also got a stamp from Cuba. The USS, there's a Cuban stamp. And there is a town in Cuba called Maccabi. And lest you not think that there are any Jewish people in Cuba, my kids took the picture of the Cuban team at the last Maccabi Games in Israel. So they wanted just to show me that there was a Cuban team there too. This one is a very, very interesting piece. It is The stamp itself, if you look at it, is a JNF stamp, a Karen Kayemet stamp. They were not real postage, but they were used as postage before Israel was able to make postage. And you can see that by the sort of the purple smudge in the middle of it. But on the bottom left corner, and Ed Croft in the SIP has taught me to look for this stuff. It says Kupat Cholim Maccabi. It means like a hospital for the Maccabi. And this is actually like a wonderful cover to have, again, if you want to include this in your collection. And it has morphed into a healthcare organization in Israel today. So it's gone from that cover to this. So to tie this all up, I'm going to talk to you a tiny bit about a Hanukkah postmark. So in 2021, Canada Post announced that they would have a Hanukkah postmark, the first Hanukkah postmark. So in other words, this is not a station mark. This is a real postmark. The artwork was done. It was approved by Canada Post. It was created by Canada Post and given to the postmaster to use. And I put this in so that you can see. This is a cover that I made. The postmark is at a place called Disraeli, Quebec. Now, why Disraeli, Quebec? Well, to be very honest with all of you, it's the most Jewish-sounding post office in Canada. There was a place called Edenbridge that was called Edenbridge in Saskatchewan because there were a lot of Eden there at one point in time, but that post office closed many, many years ago. So I suggested the Canada Post that Disraeli was a good option. They thought about it. Rabbi Bulka had just passed away, and they thought this would be a really nice way of honoring his memory as well. The postmaster, Natalie Fortier, is a lovely, lovely woman. She thought this was great. So we put together a really nice postmark. And you see, it's a good, large postmark. And this is a cover I created myself. And this is an article that was written for the newspaper there. Those of you that are fluent in French will have a good time with it. Those of you who aren't can trust me that it's a great and trusting article. If any of you want to hear more, I did a piece with Ellen Besner with the Canadian Jewish News. That is a hoot. It's really a lot of fun to listen to. Ellen's a terrific interviewer, and she had lots and lots of fun with it. This is this year's Hanukkah stamp, and this is the design I made for it this year. And so I wanted to see whether I could urge all of you to use your creative talents and your creative spirits to sort of get on the Hanukkah horse. So if you have a white envelope or a white card, you have to note where stamp and address are going to be. So I made a very, very light impression of there. If you have something, if you have an envelope and you can put a little white card in it, it just stiffens it up, but not necessary. Don't draw where the address and the stamp are going to be. That is obvious. Don't use water-based media. Water-based media will cause an envelope to be compromised. I've put in Sharpies, Prismacolor colored pencils, any kind of colored pencils, a regular pencil, pen and ink, all that stuff works reasonably well. Markers. So those of you that tell me that you cannot draw and it's a waste of time, I wanted just to show you this quickly. This is done by my 4-year-old grandson, Joey. There's Joey. And there's the Hanukkah first day cover that I put together. It's his drawing exactly, and all I did was I colored his letters. And there is the postmaster, Madame Fortier, holding Joey's envelope postmarked with the Disraeli cancel. So again, if you want to screen capture this, there is no cost to do this. The $2 US funds that you would have to pay is really covering the postage. That's really all it is. She's a lovely, lovely lady. She really enjoys doing this. Encourage all your friends to do it. If any of you are involved with students or youth groups, I encourage them to do this as well. It's a really easy way to have a lot of fun with the hobby and to introduce people to philately. So I want to end off saying that Hanukkah tells us that even a small group of people can make a difference, that we should always, always be kind and always be willing to accept those who are different. We can illuminate the world through these actions, and that light will always triumph over darkness. I'm indebted to a number of people that have helped me through this presentation, including, some people overseas. And I want to thank Eric and Nick for their help putting it all together, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. And of course, to my lovely wife who suffers this hobby with me. And with that, I want to wish everybody a Chag Sameach, a happy Hanukkah, and may your holiday be luminous, joyous, healthy, and peaceful.